Our meeting tonight is now open for sharing testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Someone's calling from area code 317-519. Can you please announce yourself and then go ahead with your testimony?
Yes, Rebecca from Indianapolis. I got some notes, so I'm going to go quick to try and keep it under 4 minutes. Very, very much love finding you people. The Plainfield Independent, I've listened for a couple of years now, and I really understand why you're independent, and I appreciate it so much. I found you on the YouTube. Very grateful to find you. The lessons, I love the way you put the lessons together. And I drive like 35 minutes to work each day, and I listen to the roundtables. And I work with animals. I do dog grooming. So they do come in with problems, a lot of them. And I work with what I listen to on the roundtable. And one dog that came in, the lady said that after I started grooming her dog, she was healed. She had cherry eye in both eyes, and normally that has to be surgically removed. And I worked with the truths that I listened to, and it was healed. Another dog that had the belief of cancer, pretty bad on the eye and head, I kept working with it every time it came in to be groomed, and it came in one day and it was completely healed. The eye, everything was perfect. I asked the owner when he came to pick up the dog, what did they do? He said no, they were actually going to put the dog down, and the next day when they got up, it was fine. So I'm very grateful for these healings. I practice what you tell us about. I am Christian Science, all that it says. I repeat this to myself. I'm everything that it says that I am, and I can do all things. One time, I was having a really hard day. Things kept coming at me, bad thoughts and stuff, and it really had me down. And all of a sudden, I remembered the article on Death Overcome. And it's like when my eyes lit up, I'm like, I know what this is. And I snapped out of that. So I'm very grateful. About 3 months ago, we had some severe weather coming here, and they were talking about Gulf-sized hail, damaging winds. And my husband, I was already in bed at the night, and he came in, and he was really worried. He said, it's only 10 minutes away. It's only 5. And I thought, what is he so upset about? And he was worried about our cars being damaged. So I got to work and praying, and I thought, well, who created the earth? Who created everything? God did, and he didn't make anything damaging. And I went on to sleep that night. And the next morning when I got up, I asked my husband, I said, so what happened? He said, nothing. And I was very grateful for this. And I went to work. I asked people, around their weather, and they did have bad weather hits, but around our home, we did not. I remember where there's on the talk, it said, you are your experience. And I hold to that a lot and keep myself in check. My husband finally got a car that he really loved, a classic car, and it was in Michigan. They went to pick it up, and they trailered it back. And one of the straps on the trailer broke on the car, and the car started bouncing on the trailer on the highway, bouncing around. It was getting damaged. He was really upset. They took it to a garage to try and see what they could do. I went in, and I got on my phone and went to YouTube and pulled up where on the articles that Be Not Afraid. And I really read each one, and really, by the end of it, I knew everything was all right. And my husband came in that night, and they were able to fix the car completely. I mean, we're talking about metal on metal, and they were able to fix it. A couple of weeks ago, you were talking about an article, The Greatest Thing in the World, or the booklet, and I knew I had read that before. And I thought, well, I got to try and find that. And it wasn't within 15 minutes. I was in the kitchen. I opened up a drawer that I never open up, and my mother's picture was in there, and underneath it was the little leather-bound book. And we had it it was an 1891 little leather-bound book, and it was the greatest thing in the world. So that was a great surprise and healing. I remember one time you talked about always put like DL for dearly loved or unlimited, that were unlimited. So every time I write my name, I always put DL and UL for dearly loved and unlimited. In the mornings before I even get out of bed, I pull up the article on day, and I listen to that before I do anything to start my day, like they say. And a thought that came to me when we're talking about when you're working for healing, of not just for ourselves individually, but we work to know it's true for everyone. And that really, I really like that, because that feels more natural, that we're not just working for ourselves, but for everyone, that something's not true and what is true about us. I always worked with God knows the very number of hairs on your head. And I thought about it, I thought, wait a minute, right at this moment, He knows the very number of hairs on every single person on the earth at this moment. And who else can do that but God? And I thought about eye colors or anything. So it's just, I really appreciate you guys so much. Your family to me, you get me through the week. I don't know where I'd be without this, and I'm so grateful to all of you. And thank you very much. And have a good evening.
And thank you as well.
Kelly, California.
Kelly from California, go ahead.
Hi, I too would like to thank this church for a lot of the changes that I've been going through. I also found Plainfield through a YouTube video, and ever since, my priorities have been changing, like internal priorities and outside priorities. Like, it's Wednesday night, go to church. It's Sunday morning, go to church. And the website has helped me so much. I love being involved with the practitioner, the website, the Unity Watches, my independent watch. They've all been an anchor for me. And lately I've been working with Herbert Eustace's America is Man's Oneness with God. And so during my watch, it's helped me see that in America, the commander-in-chief seat belongs to God. And all the seats in Congress, Senate, and House, they all belong to God. All the governor's seats in every state across America belong to God. Every mayor's seat in every town across America, big or small town, they all belong to God. Every seat of the mayor belongs to God. And every city council member's seat in every town across America belongs to God. And every school board member in every town across America is sitting in God's seat. And all those seats belong to God. And I'm seeing that I have the responsibility as an American Christian to make sure our elections maintain integrity, and that I carry out my responsibility to do my own research to find the candidates that understand that they are sitting in God's seat. And if these seats belong to God, and God is love, then each of these seats was built to express love. And so they were all built to express God. So thank you. Thank you, Florence, for the reading tonight. I love all the readers at this church. I listen to them at night also, and the music playlist too. And I'd like to I think it's Jeremy who plays the opening music. It always reminds me of people walking into church from all over the neighborhood. I love hearing the opening. And thank you for all the testimonies that are spoken here every Wednesday night. They are a big part of my security, my family's security, my city's security, my state's security, and my country's security. So thank you for your constant prayer and unswerving commitment. I love this church's expression of Christianity. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you.
Ron.
Ron from North Carolina, go ahead.
Thank you. Several weeks ago, Linda and I journeyed several states away to pick up our teenage grandson for the purpose of spending a week with him at our home. He was having some worldly challenges, and it was thought that some time away from his home spent with us would be helpful. We had spent a great deal of time with him during his childhood, and he was familiar with Christian Science, although he had not experienced much of it during the past few years. After picking him up, and upon our return home, my driver's side rear tire blew on a heavily trafficked interstate. At first, I was not aware that it was my tire, as the car did not swerve out of control. The loud noise of the shredding tire made me realize it was my car, and I began looking for a place to pull over. The shoulder was too narrow to stop the car for about a half a mile. Finally, a small place opened up, and I pulled off the interstate and parked the car just up a little from a truck that was already there. There we sat, 2 dogs and a teenager in the back seat, and Linda and myself in the front. I felt calm and trusting despite the predicament we found ourselves in. Getting out, I assessed the rear tire, which was totally shredded and smoking. Now, I was not doing specific metaphysical work at that time, but generally during trips, we are affirming God's allness, that God is a very present help in trouble. And it does seem that such prayer is like putting money in the bank. It's there when needed, and there was an obvious need at this time. Just then, my new neighbor, a big, rugged-looking guy, left his truck, came toward us, and in a loud voice said, "Looks like you could use some help." Turns out he had run out of gas and was waiting on a tow truck to bring him some. Well, I never would have described an angel in the form I now found standing before me, but judging by what took place over the next 30 minutes, I do now. After getting the jack out and set up, I realized the car was too low to the ground to place it underneath. My new friend turned his back to the car, grabbed just above the wheel, and lifted the backside of the Prius so I could get the jack in place. Once off the ground, I put the spare on it, at which point I hear his voice say, "There's no air in this tire." And then, "Wait a minute, I think I have a solution." Going to his truck, he returns with a contraption that turns out to be an electric air pump. Once hooked up to his battery, he attached it to the tire and began putting air in. Only problem, the tire was not filling up. He then looks at me and exclaims, "Take the tire off." By this time, I'm fully trusting what this angel is telling me. I take the tire off. I then see him banging the tire up and down on the ground, pushing the sides into the rim until he saw it taking air. I put the tire back on the car, and it finally looked roadworthy. My friend then offered advice on a safe travel speed, assuring us we would be okay to make it back home. When I offered him a monetary gift, he said none was necessary. He then gave me the pump and said to pass the help on to someone else in need. That would be payment enough for him. As we continued the journey home, our gratitude for this healing experience was beyond words. By human standards, the odds for such a chain of events to happen would be pretty high. By spiritual standards, what appears to be extraordinary becomes the ordinary. What cannot God do? Such an experience on a busy highway far from home, although challenging, proved to be a blessing for all of us. To experience each snake-like, mesmerizing challenge being gracefully answered was, for me, an example of how important it is to have the spiritual savings account on hand. For at the time it was happening, it was like watching some surreal movie in which I barely played a part. In an article entitled All the Way by Milton Simon, he shares a story in which a couple is walking some distance towards a town. They are offered a ride by a passing vehicle, the driver telling them he could take them halfway since he was not going into that town. As they traveled, the wife had an angel message that love never takes anyone halfway. Love takes us all the way. She immediately thought, "Thank you, Father. That's all I need." She continued to ponder this spiritual fact when the driver, having reached the halfway point, called out, "This is halfway, but I have time to take you all the way, and we'd be glad to do so." And so it was with our trip. Blessing being not that we made it home safely, but that this enduring spiritual truth became so light clear. And it did not stop there. We had a wonderful week with our grandson, reconnecting and reestablishing a firm foundation upon which to go forward in the future. Much gratitude to the Plainfield Church, who so often, through their numerous offerings, motivates me to keep this practice going, and to Mary Baker Eddy for making this practice available in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to God and Mary Baker Eddy for Christian Science. I'm grateful to my practitioner for reminding me today, and many times before, that man is the expression of God, in a personal sense, has no part in that expression. He reminded me that I'm a representative of God good, not a mortal mind. I am governed by principle and not self-will and chaos. All summer long, I worked on building an outdoor kitchen with a fireplace. Also, my pottery shop business is growing and kept me very busy. Things just came at me so fast, and I was handling it all like a madman, running around telling myself, I got this. All along, I was exhausting myself. What I was not doing was being up and about my father's business. Earlier in the year, I was asked to do a painting for the church magazine, Love is the Liberator. All summer long, when I would think about doing it, I would come up with 100 excuses for why I could not. The feeling of falling away from God and this work was very distressing, both physically and mentally. I thought I was working to get myself back on track, but everything seemed so overwhelming. I thought if I could just get everything done, I would have time to work on the painting. I had things to do for God in this church, but I was not making it a priority. After talking with my practitioner today, I felt a sense of recommitment to this work, and even though this is the busiest time of year in the pottery shop, I left everything on the table, closed the door, and began a painting for the first time in almost 2 years. It felt so good to be back in the studio again. But it feels even better to be learning this lesson. I'm so grateful for this work and for my practitioner's inspiring words of motivation and purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia from Canada, go ahead.
A preacher who promotes positive thinking gave an illustration. A woman was losing hair until there were only 3 hairs left. She cheerily braided her hair. The next day there were 2 hairs left, so she put her hair into pigtails. The following day there was only 1 hair left, and so she made a ponytail. The day after there were no hairs left, and she thought, well, now I don't have to worry about styling my hair today. That story may seem sadly humorous, but if one is facing hair loss, it's not at all amusing. I appreciate that the preacher had such Christian dedication, and she encouraged the human mind to think positively when facing adversity, but with little mention of healing. In Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy teaches us that we must always put God in the treatment. God is all, life, reality. We start and finish with the divine mind, not the human mind. From 2008 to 2016, I was a hands-on co-owner of 36 apartments in Victorian buildings in a tough downtown area of a city. My business partner and I both had hair loss. The Bible says our hairs are all numbered by the Father. I had to lose a sense of loss and gain a sense of God's unchanging good. and our hair returned. There were many challenges. For example, I once had to deal with tarantulas during an eviction, but there was always a solution. Whenever I got myself quiet and prayed. Another time I was trying to collect greatly overdue rent. A drunken, large man chased me down the stairs, burying his fist, screaming that he would pound me to dust. Impossible, I thought. I am made of spirit. As highlighted in Sunday's round table, put that idea of a dust man into the dustbin. I begged a tenant on the floor below as I was running past, "Christina, please let me in." "No way, you haven't given me 24 hours notice." "Please, Christina, I have helped you so many times. In the name of God, let me in." She allowed me to enter and escape down the fire escape. When there were thefts, knowing that principle is cause, the items were returned. One building had so many wealth incidents that the police warned that they would shut the building down if there was even one more complaint from neighbors. Peace, be still. The building settled down. Being many times in landlord-tenant court provided an opportunity to know that truth and principle are the rulers. In Genesis it says, "Shall not the judge of the whole earth do right?" We won every case. But it was so time-consuming that I left that situation because I wanted to study Christian Science more deeply. And that desire led me to our wonderful Plainfield Church, which teaches God's science of healing and casting out errors. Thank God for Jesus and Mary Baker Eddy's example, and for all his prophets, and for Plainfield.
Thank you. Ingrid from California, go ahead.
Thank you so much for this wonderful prayer gathering. Always such a big blessing. Thank you all for working so much for everyone. I would like to express my gratitude for all of Divine Mind's guidance and all of Divine Love's protection and love all the time. I know it's for everyone, human and non-humans everywhere. I had to go to a place about an hour ago to help a houseless person get something done. And as I am in that place, an hour from here, he mentioned that the day before he had missed a court date that he had for a ticket. And I know it is very, very bad to miss a court date for them especially, and of course for anyone. But I right away asked him, well, where were you supposed to go or what? And it just happened to be in that same city that we were. I didn't know anything about this. He just told me this at that moment when we were there. So I said, well, this has got to take priority over the other thing, which was something he needed for his RV. And I said, let's go right now to the court, and at least you can say, yesterday I missed this. I was so grateful to that Divine Mind was leading us to something I didn't even know. And we went to court, and he found this beautiful person that helped him and said, listen, don't worry. If you come tomorrow at 8 a.m, I will fix everything, and you will have a court date. And because it's very soon, you might just be okay. And then we went the next day, and everything was so harmoniously beautiful. They even got its amount to $350 to $25. which was a great help for him. And at the court, they said that they will give him 90 days to pay that. I mean, it is so amazing how divine love helps all the time. I mean, just so wonderful. And like I said, I know it's for everyone and everything in creation. Just so grateful to know that we can count on divine mind direction and divine mind love's protection, no matter what the claim seems to be or how negative it seems to be or bad. It doesn't matter. With God, all things are possible. Or as it says in Science and Health, all good is possible to God. And this is always the case, and just so grateful to have all that, even more in this time of this virus. It's wonderful that we have so many tools and to counteract all these lies of the pandemic. So just so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lethbridge AB.
Lightbridge A.
Leth, then AB.
Lethbridge AB. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening. My name is Michaela. I'm from Canada, and I'm very grateful to be here tonight. I learned about Christian Science for the first time about 20 years ago. At first, it was pretty strange to read the weekly Bible lessons with my spouse, who was introduced to Christian Science by a friend. However, it did not take long until I found that what I was reading made total sense. Ever since, I did not let loose of this precious gift. Unfortunately, I didn't have much contact to other Christian scientists and often felt as sitting on an island all by myself. No one to talk to about it, no one to learn from. Nevertheless, I kept on reading in Science and Health by Mary Baker Eddy, her other writings, and the Bible. Sometimes more, sometimes less. I am most grateful that since Christian Science came into my life, I didn't feel the need anymore to consult a medical doctor. All ailments that seemed to come my way, like a stiff shoulder over a period of many, many months, back pain, unrhythmic heartbeat, or shingles, left. Occasionally, I consulted a practitioner, but mostly I just did hold tight to the truth, didn't let fear take over, but kept calm in knowing the truth will make me free. I didn't experience instantaneous healing. No main thought took the assaults away, but over time of holding on, all these attacks vanished as if they had never existed. Mortal mind did claim that I am just lucky, that I just might have a good physical condition or constitution. But since I heard here at Plainfield Florence say, all good comes from God, I credit the good that has happened to me fully to God. I am rejoicing in the love of God for me and all mankind. I am thankful to my spouse, this beautiful reflection of God, for having shared the gift of Christian Science with me. I am so very grateful to Jesus Christ for his example, to Mary Baker Eddy for her diligence in reintroducing Jesus' teachings and to the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent and all its members for inspiring me and for populating my virtual island. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank you very much, Florence, for those uplifting readings. God certainly is abundant. He is abundant love in addition to supply, which I felt ever since I've got here. Just wanted to do gratitude to a practitioner who gave me a fever just on Monday. I had been working in support of my home and trying to lift and guide my son rightly, but he was, I felt that he wasn't moving along, but he was going backwards. So I didn't mean to be upset, but I'm sure it got to me. And I think that's what, I had a fever, it was about 101. And so I worked with what I was given, before by a practitioner, and mind regulates the condition of bowel, stomach, and food, temperature, children, and men, and matter does not, from Mary Baker Eddy Science and Health. I was sure that it was going to free me, but nobody else in our house was. So it was me against, and God against to stand with. And I wouldn't take anything. And I said, you're going to see that God is all I need. And so I went to bed, and I went to bed with Mary Baker Eddy's hymn, 207, O Gentle Presence. I had a sweet sleep. I woke up in the morning, I didn't have a fever, but to be sure, I called a practitioner, and she gave me support. And when I measured my temperature, it was 97.7. So nobody in my home could say anything against me or what I was doing. And so I made sure they knew it. It was a good feeling. And this church takes care of every little thing, from our big people to the children to any little thing, and helps you through it to lift you up and lift them up. I thank God for Mary Baker Eddy, who cared enough, loved enough to make sure that truth, it was God, that truth took care of everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin.
Thank you. I just feel so happy to be here tonight. It's a good place to be. Last week, I think at the beginning of last week, my son developed stomach problem. They thought it was the stomach bug or something like that. Maybe something that he contracted from, playing with other kids at school. He just started day school. But I didn't thought it was anything serious, and I always know that nothing but good will touch all of God's children, small or big, young or old. But as the days goes by, it started to get worse. And after a couple of days, and we thought it would go away, but it didn't. Then it started to get more of my attention. And I feel sorry for him because he didn't know what was going on. But at some point, it was very aggressive, the error, because it started from, bowel movement. Then he started having to vomit multiple times. So I tried to help him myself, but it wasn't going the way I wanted. Then I had to call a practitioner. And the practitioner met him with love. And the practitioner told me gave me a statement from Science and Health. This is paraphrasing that I wrote. That mind controls the temperature and bowel movement of children. Error does not. And this is absolute truth that I took to heart, and I worked with it throughout the night. And by the morning, in fact, the last vomit that he had before I called the practitioner was the last one he had. And he never had another one, so it was completely stopped. And by the next day, he started having his energy back, and we started to encourage him to eat more and drink more. And within a short period of time, he was fine. And I'm so grateful to God, to Mrs. Sadie, for giving us this science that works and is proven to be true. And also very, very grateful to the practitioner who always met us with love and her help. And I'm so grateful to be here tonight.